Hey, oh, it is connected. Okay. Hey, how's it going? So this is the second time I'm going to do this. Hopefully I'll just do it right this time. I don't know if my signs are visible, so I'm just going to bring this over here. It is hard to tell what the hell I'm doing this way, but it looked like it was visible. See, they're visible now, but in 2 seconds they're going to wash out again. And I believe you can see everything over there. I just want to say at the bottom, all the way on the bottom to the right, in the smaller writing, it says, oops, said I wasn't going to do that. Sandoval is played by Manolo Cardona. I'm just telling you that because I noticed I fixed one letter and got the thing back up there and realized that it looked like it said Mando or Mando, so it's Manolo and not Mondo. Sandoval was played by Manolo Cardona. Are we clear? Okay. Alrighty, so I wanted to, see, I screwed this up last time. I wanted to start off with my little bit of silliness, and for some reason, it was completely cut off. This is going. It's going. Okay, so I started watching Narcos just because I was out of stuff to watch, sort of between new episode days, and just didn't feel like whatever was just available on television. And I knew that I hadn't seen Narcos and that I needed to. I don't know why, though, because I had seen so much like actual documentary footage about the Pablo Escobar situation, which is all I want to talk about as far as Narcos today. I hope I can restrict my thoughts to the Pablo part. I'm going to try my best. We'll see. Okay, so yeah, started watching it because I needed something to watch. I knew about it, and also I don't think I knew that Pedro Pascal was in it, and so now a few words about Pedro Pascal. Okay, so the name Pedro, I don't think I might now, at this late stage of my life, be pronouncing it correctly, because in the LA Hollywood area where I grew up, there was a town south, a beach town called San Pedro, although Spanish speakers probably call it that just fine, but all of the other English speakers, including people that live there that I grew up with, call it San Pedro. And I knew that wasn't right. Like, I always knew that wasn't right. No one says Pedro. Just for that one place, I knew it was weird. And then the other name, the other way it gets said all messed up is San Pedro. So it's not Pedro or Pedro when you're calling the person that. But like I said, this late stage of the game, after having heard the Spanish all my life, you think I would have noticed that. I didn't until I deliberately started paying attention to learning Spanish. I should have. Shame on me. Anyway, so I get stuck on the Pedro name anyway. And then I saw The Mandalorian and was like, oh, okay, I like this Pedro Pascal guy. But that was really the only thing that I had seen him in. I thought, because in the last video I made, I did point out that you don't get to be on a Narcos or a Mandalorian without having done a whole bunch of other stuff first. So I'm sure I've seen him in lots of things and just didn't pay attention, didn't notice because I wasn't paying attention. And so his name is not household for me. Well, it is now, because now I knew I was going to do this and started watching the show. So I saw his name in the credits all the time, and The Mandalorian, and he was just on Saturday Night Live, which I also watch. So it's getting in there. It's making a dent. But recently, before the SNL show anyway, all the other stuff was true at the time. But so this was recent. But I had been on Twitter where I talk about shows and stuff with other people that talk about shows and stuff. And just in passing, I was saying that I know I talk about this guy a lot, but I know his name's Pedro and he's in The Mandalorian, but dang, I can't remember his last name. That used to happen a lot. So what I did was stuck a mnemonic on there, and it was Puma. And I was like, okay, so, and I even said on there, I added him. I'm like, I can't remember your last name, so I'm just going to call you Pedro Puma. I hope that's okay. And I knew there was something funky about that, like funny, funky, maybe both. And it wasn't until weeks later that I'm watching this show that it clicked that, like, Pedro is Peter, and Peter Puma is a character from Looney Tunes. But yeah, like, I'm a cat lady, and pumas are cool, so you go, Pedro Puma. But now I know his last name. Okay, just thought I'd share that bit of silliness with you. And just so I don't forget, I'm going to include this now. There were a lot of men on there with, like, really good announcer voices. Like the guy that plays Pablo Escobar, Wagner Moro. Oh my goodness, such a good voice. And there was a few other guys on there too that were just like the Attenboroughs with a Latin accent or something. They'd be so good. Moro especially, like he's got a good one. And then there were other ones, and I didn't know I was going to talk about this, so I didn't really keep track, but so many people just got killed, and a bunch of them had really great would-be announcer voices. Like, they're not dead in reality. They can just go find an announcer job. If that's what they want to do, they shouldn't have a problem, is what I'm saying. Okay, slowing this over. That did nothing. Anyway, so this show, I was trying to figure out if I had seen another adaptation of this true story, or, you know, based on the true story. And I couldn't remember. I must have. I remember the one about the young guy that Johnny Depp played, and I mean, there's been others. I can't remember there's another guy that flew a plane. Well, there was a guy that flew a plane in this one that was like a half German, half Latino guy, and I remember the name, but that's not I don't know, it's confusing. There's a lot of Miami cocaine, Escobar era stories out there that I saw documentary footage about, but I can't really recall if I saw anything else that was a fictional adaptation. But anyway, this one, well, I thought it was funny that the actor, I think maybe in the beginning he had like a tiny beer belly, maybe. But he basically seems to be a slim guy. At some point, though, I noticed that he was wearing a fake stomach, because I think overall Escobar was just a bigger guy. I think he was taller. He was definitely fatter. I have a bad habit of noticing things like, you know, the fake stomach, or like on like a sitcom, people will have cups of coffee and they'll be waving them around like gravity doesn't matter, and boy, if there was seriously a drink in that cup, it'd be all over the wall, you know? Kind of not really what the story's about, but I get stuck on those silly barbs. Anyway, speaking of stuck on a silly barb, back to what I was really talking about. So yeah, a lot of the guys in the show have great voices for the announcing work. Congrats. I don't know, I just thought it was worth mentioning. Oh, because this is what I was saying in the other video, is that I guess I really like sound and vibration type things. In fact, I just left a post, maybe two, on my channel about the brain and vibration and manifestation from vibrating your brain. So yeah, I like that kind of stuff, and the voices matter. And there was like nice, sonorous, deep voices, and just very distinctive, characteristic voices, and just I don't know, like another level, another layer of pleasure, of enjoyment of the show. And there's another actor whose voice I just love. It is George Clooney. Oh my goodness, that voice just does something to me. I love it. So yeah, you guys with those voices, you go, boy. Yeah. So, fictional adaptation. That's another thing. The show touches on this ever so lightly. I would even go so far as to say slightly. There's like two guys representing the whole CIA. Like the guy at the embassy in charge, and then the one guy who I think I've seen him play the same role before, like the sneaky, sleazy CIA guy that's always sneaking around, and then he's like, especially in this show, he's always like, he's there all of a sudden, talking to you when you thought you were alone, scaring the poop out of poor Agent Pena. I didn't put him up there. I'll have to put it in the information box. I can't believe I didn't put him on there. I was having trouble like seeing the cast and crew, like literally seeing. I think my cataract is getting worse. But I will. How will I remember? I'll scratch it into my hand, I guess. But the CIA, their level of involvement in not just the Escobar cocaine business, but just in general in that era covered by the Narcos show, and I guess this franchise of Narcos shows, because cocaine never stopped flowing in. A bunch of people died, like so many. Over the many years now since then, like what was that, the 80s? It's 2020s. They were talking about 3 and 4 tons coming through just Miami in a day. So many more entry points at this time. And anyway, wandering from the point. Come on back. Okay, so that was the attraction, sort of, to start watching, and then to keep watching, like what I've said before. The other part is, I was really struck by like what these guys, these cocaine traffickers, were getting away with in their countries. And it's not like their police were like letting them, but this is something they illustrate really well in the show, that I don't think people realize how important this type of thing was to the success of these guys. And that was that whether they wanted to be or not, the people around them in their towns became pawns and part of the whole deal, like whether they wanted to or not. There's one subplot where a guy starts working for one of Escobar's, I don't know, even know, sicarios, I guess. But anyway, one of his men that out there, they're like security, they're traffickers. They're like doing the smuggling and doing the killing around it and the womanizing. And so, for example, there is like a little barrio, and I guess there's a bunch of different ones that have names, and one of them is named after Escobar himself, and they're like his people. And it's like his safe place to go, and they relate to him because he came from circumstances like them. Then there's even a story the mother tells about him coming home from school when he was a little boy and being upset and crying because he was bullied because he had poor shoes, and she went and stole him a pair of good ones. And it kind of really let you know, like, okay, well, that kind of explains why he's the way he is, because he definitely was like some kind of a psychopath from what I've read about or seen, read, whatever I've learned over the years what a psychopath is. He's charming and he's manipulative and he'll get other people to do his dirty work, which was him. Check, check, check. And you did what he wanted. Like, he might be charming and pretend like he gave a crap about whether you were happy about what was happening or whether you wanted to do it or not or were happy about it or whatever. It really didn't matter. If he said you were, you were. And that's kind of like the people knew they had the option of, yes, I'm happy, or maybe I'm unhappy in my life for 3 more seconds because he'll kill you because he's crazy. But he gave those people something that the government wasn't giving them, like material amenities that they needed and, help with whatever emergencies they might have, like hospital bill, like maybe their car broke down. They could go to him for help, but he got what he needed from them too. And that's kind of the charming manipulation of this guy, because he would put them between himself and the law, and they were more inclined to do what he wanted than follow the law for the most part, not entirely, but it was dangerous to step out of the line. Like, those people, it was like East Germany. Those people would narc on you if they thought that you even had a bad thought about Escobar, and he encouraged that, and he would give them stuff and build them places to live and to play, or take whole crowds of people to an amusement park or build one or whatever it was. He was giving them stuff they wanted and needed, so they were prepared to make concessions. And I think that's what we don't understand about that, because from my point of view, that all seems crazy, but they didn't have options. Where were they going to go? They were poor, and compared to here, the country was poor except for the rich people, and it's the same everywhere. They're not really wanting to hand out and share the wealth and help not have these polar sort of wealth disparities. But that's a whole other chat, and I'm not going to do it right now. But they wanted to do it, and they did it in the full knowledge that, they could die because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because, in the story, it went from directed assassinations to toward the end, when he was getting desperate and he was gonna die and lose everything, he didn't care who got killed. Collateral damage, of course, he never cared. He just pretended to, because that was a means to an end for him. And plus, the flattery did no harm. He was narcissistic as well, although that probably comes with the territory. It's crazy, But it made me start thinking about, why are we loyal to people and things, and the degree that it could reach. And so first I started thinking about sports teams, and that was true for here as well as in the story. In the story, soccer, football would be the main sport, the way the NFL or baseball is here. I don't know how popular baseball is anymore, but I know football is crazy. I think I think today was the Super Bowl, which I didn't watch. I like the commercials. I'll have to go to the internet and check that out. God, I'm fidgety. Okay. Yeah, so that's not something I relate to, because I used to I like baseball. Not baseball, basketball. But I like it a whole lot less than I used to. I've just found other things more interesting, I guess, as time's gone by. But, it's also a turnoff to know how expensive it is to be a fan, patron of the sports. Like, if you want to wear your favorite player's jersey, dang, those are expensive. And tickets to games are crazy expensive. And it's a mass marketing machine, the sports industry. And the players are just part of it. Like, look how hard it is for those people. Like, there's a kid, I think he plays for Buffalo, and he had a heart attack, like, on the field or at the, like, when a game was happening, and he got a lot of public love and attention. And I thought, well, if he wasn't a major football guy, he would not be getting all of this attention and love by some of the same people that would think so little of him as a human being if he were not this football guy. Like, that stuff, yeah, that blows me away. So that's a level of fanaticism or fandom that I don't get. Like, the sometimes violent incidents where property is damaged with the, people flipping over cars and pulling down light posts and just going nuts. Although, that's just kind of like, yeah, people get upset and, oh, damage was done to property, and the news people harumph for the business owners or whatever. But the attitude was sort of, it had a different tone when, after, like, the Rodney King beating trial, whatever it was that set off the riot in South Central LA. There were a lot of factors. I mean, it was already like a fuse waiting to be lit. Why did I start talking about that? Well, anyway, I guess just getting caught up in, like, the fervor of things. The excitement from, like, the football games or whatever, the sports teams winning and losing. I don't get like that. Like, I don't think about anything really, certainly not about sports. And that was something that these people in Colombia also have. They have their love for the sports team. But guess who owned Escobar Village's favorite team? Escobar. A bunch of the cocaine guys owned soccer teams, football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm sure that there's a level of fanaticism about that. But then the Escobar love was far above and beyond that. Like, just knowing that you could just get killed because of something this guy was doing. And then I sort of interrupted myself and went off on a tangent. But I started to say that it started out that he was assassinating politicians and his enemies and people that were trying to stop him from doing cocaine stuff. And then it became his competitors and fighting against them and the whole other people. And then when he was losing against everyone and he was so desperate, he didn't care who got shot or got blown up. But that was, like I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but I guess want to double down on that point. This dude did not care about these people and the stuff he gave them. Easy come, easy go, like whatever, he could just get more. But he would just take what he wanted, and he just learned to, like, wheedle stuff out of people or make them think they want to give it to you or make them think he really liked you or loved you. But he had quirks because he totally had a family that he seemed to absolutely care for. But he also had affairs. But then that's not unusual of men at his level of wealth or chutzpah, whatever it is, these powerful men. But he was kind of psycho, so the family was like a weird thing. But, okay, now here's a total sidetrack, but it kind of has to do with it. I had just watched an episode of the new Criminal Minds, and they talked about the psycho that they were after, who was a serial killer, but he had a family, and I can't remember the exact reason, but there was some part of his pathology that kept him for a long time from hurting the family. Like, they were important to him. They basically made him look good. And then, like, his psychosis started to wear on him, or the law moving in and desperation made him just sort of lose the ability to maintain the facade. And he was busting out with if I have to hear it one more time from this fucking family. That is a particular line that I remember, because here these people thought, his daughters and his wife thought, here's this completely other guy, and he was just never the guy all along that they thought he was. And I feel like that's how Pablo Escobar was. Never the guy that people thought he was. And even though the wife was all in love with him, and his crazy life with the murder and the danger and the possibility of arrest and the drugs making everybody all nuts, just totally wanted to just be by his side. And I wonder if at the end, had they been around and they were not doing what he wanted, and it wasn't saving his life or doing what he wanted it to do, if he wouldn't have just eventually killed off the family because, screw it, crazy. I don't know. But it was a thinker. So, that, knowing that this guy was like a buzzsaw on the loose, just flying around getting people, they still loved him. But I mean, what was that about? Like, that could have been so many different things for so many different reasons. So that then made me look up, like, loyalty. I thought I had a pretty good idea of. Same with devotion, pretty much the same word almost when you look them up. A lot of the same definition. But the thing about devotion is it starts moving into religion and prayer, which is another level of vibration, I guess you could say. It's just like it's a whole other thing. Although I think it really wove within and without the feeling that people had for Escobar, fear included, and then also that fervor for the sports teams. Because, there's people, this is, whatever. Anyway, I looked up loyalty and devotion, and the main difference was when it came to devotion, it went same, and then it started going into, but it could go into like religious fervor and devotion. Oh, I already said that. What is the word? Passion. Mindless passion for anything else but this one thing, to where you devote yourself of your worldly possessions, and your whole everything is the God thing. Like, it wasn't quite that level, but almost. Like I said, these people were putting themselves in harm's way. Not that they had a whole lot of choice, but it was just a crazy dynamic. Like, it was chills underneath my clothes thinking about that, because I don't know, like, that's like stepping so close to death, and what are you getting out of it? And okay, so that's what was up with Pablo and the people, and that's crazy to me. Like, wow, man, that's just nuts. But I don't live in those circumstances. Like I said, the cocaine is still flowing, so I wonder how much of that has really changed. And I'm only talking about one part of the story, like the very beginning of the terrible tale. I'm right now in the Cali part, and I'll just talk about it because I don't know if I'm going to do more videos on this show, but I'll tell you what. There is a character called Salcedo, and he's the security guy for the Cali cartel, and they're the gentleman drug guys or something like that. The gentleman cartel, because they kind of stay away from the Escobar type violence, although that's not really true. They're just as violent. It's three brothers, and so anyway, they have this security guy. And okay, wait, let me talk more about the brothers. So one is gay and he's kind of crazy, killer wise. Like he'll just seem fine and then do that cycle thing and like whip out a gun and shoot somebody in the head or something, or act like he's talking to him all nice and like pick up the nearest thing and whap him in the skull with it before killing them to death or something. And then there is one in the middle, I guess, and he's just kind of a go-along guy, I guess. And he's got a son, and his son is a nitwit, mean, jealous of everybody guy. And then the oldest one is the one that sort of counsels everyone to be nonviolent as much as possible, and they sort of style themselves more like stockbrokers, definitely, than drug dealers. But they are like an elitist drug cartel, I guess you could say. So the security guy, Salcedo, he wants to retire and start like his own private security company, and they don't want to let him go. They keep finding reasons for him to stay. Like somebody gets killed, and they're like, hey, you go do this. And he's like, well, wait a minute. Why are you giving me a new job? I'm supposed to leave in 6 months. He's like, oh, we'll see what happens in 6 months. And they just, it's that the more I try to go, they pull me back in thing for this guy. And because he works for a cartel, you can't say that he's innocent. But he's trying to get out of the game, and he just keeps getting promoted. Like people keep getting killed around him. Like he's like actively trying to, with the coordination of the DEA, get his boss arrested and take his brothers down. Like just take down the whole cartel and stop it, because, like I said, the flow of cocaine is still happening at that time, and they just keep giving him more responsibility. And so the middle brother's son, like I said, is crazy, and he's crazy jealous of the security guy because he keeps catching stuff, even though he knows that he's like trying to get out of the game and work with the authorities. He keeps having to stop and like notify his boss of danger coming, because things can't really be coordinated. Things just don't go exactly the way you want to plan them, as in life. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm just saying, like, you end up having to be loyal because you're in fear of your life, or you're in fear of the life of your loved ones. It's just such a Chinese finger trap of a life. So terrible. But it's not like you can get out of it easily the way you can out of one of those little wicker devils. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to talk about the sort of insanity of being so devoted to really fallible people, like really criminal, not great people. And also being in situations where you kind of got to do what you got to do. Okay, I'm done talking. Thank you and good night.